Okay, we're on the section where it says, related Sage code. And it says, I am providing a copy of my Sage input for students wishing to use Sage to solve mathematical problems. This is optional though. This is not something we're requiring of you, nor should you use this on any exams or homework. We're just trying to get your feet wet. That's all we're trying to do, right? But it's optional. You're not required to do this. You're not going to be tested on it. So it says, be aware that all students should consider learning how to use computer algebra system, and you should. And what computer algebra system are we doing? We're using something called Sage. And the reason Sage is a good computer algebra system, main reason is it's free, but it's also widely used all over the world. Like, if you look at any major university, their math department, their engineering department, their computer studies department would be familiar with Sage software. It's a big, big product. A lot of people use it. All right. So I want to point out that, you still have to learn to do things by hand. Otherwise, Sage will be no benefit to you whatsoever. All right. You have to learn what we're presenting in class, by the way. And everything we do is by hand at the whiteboard. You're expected to do likewise on a piece of paper, your whiteboard, where you do the problems, paper and pencil. But again, we're trying to say there's a connection now between these simple problems, being able to code a simple problem using a computer, and moving forward to more difficult problems as you move forward in your careers. All right. So the website over here, this is in that red color. Remember, if you click this thing here, it's going to bring you somewhere. Where's it going to bring you? To the website. And what website is that? That's the Sage Math website. Give me 1 second. I have it open twice. So over here, I would love for you to read through it. I really would. But most students are not interested in reading through that. They look at it and say, well, why would I read through that? Well, you need motivation to read through something. And I'll be honest with you, sometimes the motivation's really in a different place. And that's fine. Have a motivation to do something. But what I claim over here is this is the low bar. You could actually run Sage online by clicking on the CoCalc Instant Sage Worksheet. Let me click on that. And what's going to happen is they're going to launch CoCalc. So it says, welcome to CoCalc. I'll click on that. What does it say? Start a project. Okay, let's start one. I got a bunch of projects over here. What I'm going to do though, I want to start a new project. I want a clean sheet of paper. So I'm going to say new, Sage Worksheet. Here comes a problem. You got a worksheet. It's like a word processor. You can type stuff in there. Well, I want to type something that's going to be useful though, right? So what am I going to do? I'm going to type in what I'm seeing over here in my notes. Reset. Here's a lot of students get confused. What do I do now? I typed it in. What do I do? If you hit the return key, nothing will happen. You must hit the shift key, then the return key at the same time. Shift return. If you notice something happened over here, it turned green. That says Sage did something. What did it do? It's giving you a clean slate to work from. Now I'm going to define a variable, x equals a var. I'm just typing what I'm seeing in my notes. Shift return. And then I'm going to type this thing in over here. And so it looks really crazy. What does it say? Solve. Or they want to solve ABS. Now, I hope you realize we're in this section on absolute value. So ABS stands for the absolute value of 2 star x. If you put in 2x, though, it's going to misunderstand it. You must put in 2 times x plus 11, all right, minus 3, less than or equal to 4, comma, x. Again, all I'm doing is typing things in that I'm seeing. Now what I'm going to do? Well, I want to point out, if you hit the return button, you notice just what happened there? The parentheses just moved. I didn't want that. What I want to do? Shift return. It's going to execute it. And by the way, it's asking, the server now, it's trying to find a server to do the problem. And here's where a lot of students get horribly confused. And this is why we're saying, yeah, if you can't do things by hand, you're going to be horribly confused by the answers. But they're giving me an answer over here. You just may not be at the stage where you can read the answer. You maybe can't read it, all right? Now, I'm going to say it's somewhat readable. I could see it looks like x equals minus 2, x equals minus 9. Looks like x is greater than minus 9. and x is less than minus 11 twelves. You get the idea. All right. You might say, I don't know what that means. Well, here's the deal. We're not expecting you can read that. What we're expecting you to be able to do, and I want to point out, I'm going to look for this problem. It's 2x plus 11, absolute value of that. And let me just scroll back in the notes. All right. I know it's tough. Right? Let me go back. It's 2x plus 11 minus 3 less than or equal to 4. It's right there. Let me see if I type that in right, though. Give me 1 second. Let's see, 2x plus 11. Yeah, absolute value, minus 3. Yeah, I typed it in. Here's your answer over here, though. Again, you might be horribly confused what's over here. Horribly confused by that. Understandable. All right, I want to go to one other piece of software. And that piece of software, I want to go to Wolfram Alpha. All right, I'm going to type it in. All right, I want to point out that's Wolfram Alpha. I'm going to say solve. I'm going to use the absolute value symbol. And what is that? That's a vertical bar, right? 2x plus 11. I think you can appreciate that this looks like it's easier to use. Less than or equal to 4. And what does it give me? It typesets it for me. You see that there? Same thing I have over here. It writes down the solution. What's x? X is less than or equal to minus 2, and x is greater than or equal to minus 9. I wrote the intervals down, which is our gold standard, and they put a graph down for me, which is good news. All right, that's really good news. All right, I want to just briefly go through the Sage thing again and just read this. We're not going to hold you responsible for doing Sage, nor are we holding you responsible for using Wolfram Alpha or any other computer system. If you're thinking about moving forward, though, it is really important you start to think about options. And what are those options now? Software. Software can do problems. The problems we give you, though, every single problem is a simple problem, can be done by hand. As you start to move through your careers, though, simple problems start to become more difficult problems. So much so that some problems are so difficult, a machine is required to solve it. It requires heavy lifting. All right, so I'm going to just briefly go away from the notes. All right, we just talked about the Sage over here. And again, it says, yeah, reading the output is more difficult than doing it by hand. It certainly is. So I'm going to go back to my website and let's just talk about that momentarily. What's our website? mth119.mathography.org. Okay. So over here, I want to claim to you, you should see this optional Sage intro video. You can watch it if you want, but again, I said again, you're not required to. So if you click on this, it's going to play. I'm going to pause it. You could expand it so it looks a little bit bigger, yada, yada, yada. You get the idea, right? But again, you might say, so I'm not interested. Okay, you're not interested. Get interested in something though, all right? So I'm going to say you could do that. You could go to that website. You could learn, I'm sorry, you could watch that video and learn how to install Sage on your computer, all right? I want to talk about another website, and that's another website that I've written that I would like you to become familiar with. So sage.mathography.org. Okay. Okay, if you go to this website over here, I wrote a book free of charge for ECC students. So if you click on this, a PDF is going to open. The document's about 51 pages long. Yes, I know it's long. Again, we're not asking you to read it. We're saying if you're interested, you may want to read it. And what does it give you? It gives you an optional Sage tutorial. And you could use CoCalc to do this. So if you go through this, I want to point out, not that I want to go through the tutorial with you, but first part of the tutorial is using Sage as a calculator. You can do that. And what do they give you? They give you my input and output for these type of problems over here. All right. And again, you can go to Sage and do that if you want. All right. What I'm talking about Sage, where we do the CoCalc instance. Okay. Let me go back to my website. The other thing I wanted to mention to you is that, there's certainly, I try not to write a lot on my website because I realize a lot of students really don't want to read that stuff. I just want to point out something else. So we pointed out the guidebook. That guidebook specifically designed for ECC students. I'm also going to talk about this guy's website, Gregory Bard's. If you click on that, it's going to bring me to his website. What's interesting about his website is he has a book out that's published. In other words, it's in hard copy. You can buy it on Amazon for like $60 or $70. I bet it's expensive, but he's been nice about it. And what he been nice about it, he actually provides a free copy of the book he wrote to students. All right. So I want to point out, someone says, I wonder where that book is. And someone says, there's way too much. I can't read through all that stuff. There's no doubt about it. But he has a lot of stuff down here, videos, free book, yada, yada, yada. But I told you there's a free book on the website, right? So someone says, I wonder where that free book is. All right, let's take a look at it. So this is Gregory Bard's website, and he has a book down here that's free for downloading. All right. He talks about the Sage Math CoCalc website. I've talked about that with you, right? You talk about a local installation. What does that mean? You can install a software. Well, my website also has a local installation. That's just that's an introductory video. I'll walk you through that if you want to do it. And then for the most part, he talks about you can click on these links over here. Yeah, what are we looking for? We're looking for the book, right? Right here. Here's a link to his book. Black and white version, color version. I'm going to click on the color version. What happens? It downloads it to my computer, and then my computer opens up the PDF. Let me briefly go to, do not be overwhelmed. We're not asking you to read this. It's for those students interested in moving forward. May want to take a look at this. It was published in 2010. It's an old book. I know that, but it's still free. It's there for you. You could also buy it online at Amazon, but it's got the old version up here. And I want to point out, you're scrolling through that. I just want to keep scrolling through it. Contents, welcome to Sage, Sage Calculator, common functions, graphing, trigonometry, yada, yada, yada. All right. So there's a lot of stuff down there. And someone says, it's too much for me to handle. We're not saying you have to handle everything. You need to start taking tiny bites of this, though. I always say getting your feet wet. Before you know it, you're completely submerged in the subject area, and you're learning at a much more rapid pace. But you realize there's a lot of different pages over here. All right, just scrolling through. This is the table of contents, by the way. All right, and keep scrolling through it, and it's wow, this never 325 pages. That's a lot of material. All right, but it's free for you to look at. All right, there's a lot of stuff down there. I'm just quickly scrolling through the document now. You get the idea. It's a big document. How do you do a big document? Well, you may want to look at it, do a search on it, whatever you want to do. There's a lot of stuff down here. This will bode well for your futures if you can master something like this. All right, if you can do it. All right, thank you. And I think we're done with the Sage discussion for this week.